Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are back in Hong Kong, as you might be able to tell from the change in background, and since we're back here, I thought we would kick off the next round of reviews with something from Hong Kong. And I do have quite a few Hong Kong beers to review on the channel for you over the next little while, so keep your eyes peeled for those. We'll be working our way through those cans and bottles. But yeah, for this one today, we are going to return to a brewery that is featured on the channel many times before. If people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they are very solid all round, but potentially their most interesting beers that they do are the sour beers. But the one we're going to have a look at today is one of their latest releases at the time of filming, which is mid-August 2024. It's a style that I have had from this brewery before, but it does have a little bit of a twist to it that we haven't had from these guys within this style category. And I do know that this is a good one because I have tried it on tap, so I'm quite curious to see how the canned version of this one measures up to that tap version that I tried. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see how this one turns out. Hopefully it's as good as I remember. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to stick to the Kowloon side in Hong Kong. We're going to go a little bit to the northwest of Kowloon though, up to Kwai, Chung, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Yardley Brothers Brewery. So this particular beer is called Pineapple Paul. It comes in at 6% ABV. This one is a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA, but it's also been brewed with mango and pineapple terpenes, which is something we haven't had on the channel from Yardley Brothers Brewery before. So yeah, this I think could be really quite interesting. But definitely cool to return to these guys after what feels like a wee while. I honestly couldn't tell you what my last Yardley Brothers review was, come to think of it. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what it has in store for us. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Yardley Brothers Brewery before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. I do have 2 or 3 more of their cans in the fridge that we need to work our way through, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist along with a number of other things that's being added to very regularly, of course, particularly over the next little while. And yeah, do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. So yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Yardley Brothers Brewery once again then. So, the Yardley Brothers Brewery was originally founded by Luke and Duncan Yardley, hence the name, and the brothers are half Scottish, half English, and Luke previously worked as a parts wholesaler, and his work brought him to Hong Kong, and he ended up staying here after meeting a girl. That relationship didn't work out though, and he met another one and then ended up marrying her a little bit later on. But he and Duncan had homebrewed back in the UK together, and then they took it up again when Duncan joined Luke in Hong Kong back in 2014. And the main reason they started homebrewing was that they couldn't get the beer that they wanted to drink themselves. But the first brewery they had was in a small shack on Lamma Island, but in December of 2016 they opened up a production brewery on the 5th floor of an industrial building, and they did this mainly because the rent was a lot cheaper. And if you know anything about Hong Kong, you will know that the real estate prices, both commercial and residential, are absolutely horrendous. But apparently when they moved in, the tanks wouldn't fit in the lift, so 8 people had to push them up the stairs basically. But they stayed in this brewery for a number of years, and this was in the Kwai Chung area at the Wat Tat Industrial Centre, just to the northwest of the main part of Kowloon. But they've also got they've also got the Beer Shack bar out on Lamma Island, which isn't the original shack that they used to brew in, and they've also got their tap room on Peel Street in Sental. And over the last few years, they've been developing their barrel program, which they started back in 2018, and they've recently moved into a new and larger brewery, still in Kwai Chung though, again to the northwest of Kowloon. And I think they moved in there toward the middle of 2023, if I'm not mistaken. But they've also, as of August 2024, before. They've produced around 150 different kinds of beers of all different styles. One of their most famous beers is apparently a freeze distilled IPA called the Beast, and this held the title of the strongest beer produced in Asia. And like I say, over the last few years they have become very, very well known for their different sour beers actually, and I would say those are the most interesting things that Yardley brothers do. But they are a very, very good brewery all round, like I said, and yeah, I always enjoy having a beer from these guys, especially the Hong Kong Bastard. That's probably my favourite one, my kind of go-to when it comes to these guys. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Yardley Brothers Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So as you can see, this one is a 330 milliliter can. I think I paid like 30 Hong Kong dollars or something like that for this one, so that's about £3 sterling. Maybe about €3.50, $4 American, something like that. Maybe not quite that much actually with the euros and dollars. But yeah, this one apparently is named after a friend of the brewery who died recently, Paul. He lived on Llama Island and apparently used to grow, you know, pineapples and mangoes on his roof. So they decided to make this beer kind of in his honour by putting the mango and the pineapple terpenes in it. So like I said, it's 6% IPA, this one. It's hopped with Mosaic, Citra and HBC 586 with the addition of those terpenes. Mosaic and Citra we know quite well, both American, both 14% alpha acid. Mosaic's going to give you that little touch of earthiness, but that big oily kind of tangerine character. Citra in a New England IPA is going to give you a lot of soft juicy mango with apricots and pineapples and stuff like that, sometimes a little bit of lemon and lime character as well. HBC 586 I'm pretty sure is one we've come across quite a few times. It's an American hop breeding company, and it gives you 12 to 13% alpha acid. It's known for its mango, guava and lychee flavours, but it's also got a little bit of herbal character to it as well apparently. But yeah, those are all the details that you need to know from the about the beer itself. But it says on the little side here, it says, building our cutting edge flavour research, Pineapple Paul blends up the punch of living pineapple and mango terpenes with the fruit forward biotransformation of Yardley fake yeast, fermented natural fruit juices and tropical fruit, citrus and pine notes from Citra, HBC 586, Mosaic and Hallertau Blanc. Oh, so Hallertau Blanc is in here as well. I didn't say that on the Untappd page. Hallertau Blanc, of course, is a German hop. I want to say it's about I think it's like 11 or 12% alpha acid, and it's actually kind of like Germany's answer to Nelson Sauvin. It gives you this lovely kind of gooseberry character and then the big German noble hop qualities too. And it says at the bottom here, in memory of the wonderful Paul Keefe. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. I'm very curious about this one. Pineapple Paul, 6% IPA. Oh, I thought this one was going to be a little bit more hazy than it is, but yeah, we need to be a bit more careful with this, I guess. There we are. No sediment at the bottom of the can, incidentally, but yeah, I was expecting something a little bit more hazier than that, but anyway, because the one that I had actually when I tried it on tap was quite a bit hazier than this. But you can see that the beer poured with about 2 fingers of quite a bumpy cream coloured head there. You can just see that, very, very soapy in its appearance actually. But the beer itself is kind of what you'd expect. Lovely kind of bright golden colour. This one, remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put in the beer will affect its colour as well. And yeah, I don't know about the actual terpenes. If I remember right, terpenes are colourless compounds. They're basically long chains with carbon-carbon single and carbon-carbon double bonds, and then there's a few oxygens. I'm trying to remember my organic products chemistry from my master degree, but it's been a long time actually. I should have looked that up before starting to film this video. I'm not going to stop it now. But yeah, this one for me, the colour of this one will most likely be down to the different malts that have been used in here. Potentially a little bit of the terpenes too, but I don't remember terpenes having particular colours and things. But you can see 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass. You can see some carbonation going up toward the surface of the beer as well. But all in all, this one looks kind of pretty much as you would expect from. It looks pretty much as you would expect from a modern IPA, basically. A little bit of natural haze to it, of course, which will be down to the yeast, and probably this one's unfiltered as well. But yeah, in all, this is kind of what I'd expect from an IPA. I don't think we really need to say anything more about the appearance, so let's go on and have a wee look at the aroma of this one and see what it's got in store for us. But I will tell you straight away, it does have a pretty pungent aroma to it, and I think it is the terpenes that are jumping out of this one. Yeah, the terpenes coming out of this straight away, but I think some of the kind of citricy sharpness you get is probably from the Kwai yeast as well, actually. So yeah, aroma wise, this is quite interesting. So for me, yeah, it smells lovely. It is, as I say, this one is it smells a lot kind of cleaner than the one that I had on tap. Maybe it was toward the bottom of the keg, actually, the one that I had on tap, because as I say, it was a lot more kind of hazy and opaque than this one is. So could have just been that. But in all, I think the aroma of this one's lovely, actually. Goes together really, really nicely. That's good. Yeah, so I will say, generally speaking, it smells like quite a clean IPA. There's quite a little bit like bready backbone to it. You've got a nice big green component, and you have got some slightly kind of sharper, yeah, you do have some slightly kind of sharper, citricy, fruity notes to this one as well. So yeah, the way that this goes together, I think, is it's really, really nice. Yeah. Where do we start with this one then? Let's just break that aroma down and describe it for you more in depth. So the backbone of the beer, you have this lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there. Yeah, you've got this lovely fresh white bready bread crust in this one, and within that you've got a little bit of woody character, you've got a little bit of cracker. These are things you very often find in the backbones of these IPAs. But then above that, definitely some nice, there's like a kind of wholemealy brown bread in there, and you've got a slightly sweeter, I've got a little bit of a sniffle actually, must be that aircon. But yeah, there's a little bit of yeah, definitely getting a little bit of the like a sweeter kind of white bread coming out of this one. I've got a feeling there is a bit of wheat used in this one, because at the back of the nose you do get just that little touch of like bitiness out of the beer, and you can also smell that there's a really dense but quite smooth white bready character to this one as well. There could be a little bit of oat in this one, but I'm more convinced about there being wheat rather than oat. You do smell a little touch of oaty, or I do get a little bit of oaty creaminess in the middle of the nose with this one, which is really nice. So yeah, a little bit of oaty creaminess in there. Little touch of like Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, but not too much. I mean, this is only 6% ABV, but I'm getting quite a little bit of you know, McVitie's digestive biscuit coming out of this one as well. So yeah, the way that this pieces together, I think, is really quite nice. Yeah, for me, aroma wise, I think this yeah, this does go together pretty damn nicely actually in the malty side of things. At the back of the nose, you are of course getting some of the aspects of the Kwai yeast. I'm quite familiar with this, of course. I love my Norwegian Kwai yeasts, but you can smell that nice, yeah, you can smell this nice kind of like light, airy, farmhousey bread. There's a little bit of cracker to it, there's a little bit of wood, there's a whole host of things going on with this one, which I think is great. So yeah, for me, the yeah, the way that that goes together in this one, I think is really nice. As I say, it gets a big thumbs up from me. On top of all of that, I think there's a little bit of yeah, on top of all of that, I think there's just a wee bit of like citricy character coming out from the yeast as well. So you can smell that little bit of citricy sharpness on the top of the nose. But again, that's something that you kind of sometimes expect from the Kwai yeast. But yeah, I think the terpenes are giving you this really kind of sharp character in this beer, so maybe they're contributing to that a little bit as well in this one. The aroma of this one, in terms of what I've had from IPAs in recent times, it is actually a little bit unusual. So it's one of the reasons I'm being a little bit more kind of almost cautious with this beer in trying to describe what's going on with it. But as I say, certainly it is very, very nice. Yeah, on the hoppy side of things then. So you have to remember with IPAs, there are 3 types of hoppings that you can do. You've got early addition hopping, which takes place in the early part of the wort boil, and that gives you quite a deep dank green component and most of your bitterness. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place in the latter part of the wort boil, and that gives you a little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma, and it gives you a very bright green component for your flavour and aroma. Dry hopping takes place after the wort boil is complete. Again, very bright green component there, and that's all about flavour and aroma, of course, so that's something to bear in mind. But yeah, this one smells as if it's mainly relying on late addition and dry hopping. You can tell that from the brightness of the green component. But with this one, there's a nice little bit of, you do get that little touch of earthiness out of it. I'm getting quite a little bit of the herbal character, which I'm guessing is from the HBC 586, and there's that little bit of woodiness that you get sometimes from the German noble hops, the Hallertau Blanc. But yeah, nice bright floral note to it, quite a bit of zesty grassy character as well, which is most likely, I think, to come from the Citra, but it's going to be promoted a wee bit by the Hallertau Blanc. And then on the fruity side of things, you can smell a little touch of that gooseberry in there from the Hallertau Blanc. There's a bit of the orange as well at the front of the nose from the tangerine orange from the Mosaic. I think the Citra takes a little bit of a back seat in this one. You can smell a little bit of apricot-y, a little bit of an apricot-y character coming out of this one. But there's a wee bit of sharpness there too, so the guava it's like a guava note. Guava for me is, at least comes across as a very sharp aroma, and you can pick that out of this one quite easily. But I think the terpenes, the pineapple and the mango terpenes that are in this one are really sharp, and they are giving the beer like quite a little bit of sharpness in the top of the nose almost. So aroma wise, this is a beer that's very interesting for me because it's quite different to a lot of the things that I've tried before. So yeah, this one, this is what you want after 4,000 odd beer reviews. You want a beer that is going to test you a little bit and make you think. So well done to Yardley's for managing to do that. But yeah, I think that's everything we really need to say about the aroma. So that all that's left to do is actually to taste this one and see how we go. So let's do it. So yeah, this one is Pineapple Paul, a 6% IPA with pineapple and mango terpenes in it. We'll give a big toast in this one to Paul Keefe. Didn't know the guy, but obviously the Yardley guys did, and he was very well thought of. So we'll give a big Slàinte Skål and cheers to him. Let's get stuck into this one. Cheers. Ooh. I'm going to say, I don't know what it is about Yardley's beers, but I actually tend to prefer, it seems that I tend to prefer the canned. I seem to prefer the canned and bottled versions of their beers. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it maybe takes them just a wee bit of time when they make things like this to actually, just tweak the recipe a little bit so that it tastes very good on tap and things. But yeah, I do find myself very often preferring the canned and bottled versions of the Yardley's beers. It's really unusual, actually. Need to think about that a wee bit. But yeah, this one is really, really good. This gets a big, big thumbs up from me. Yeah, it's kind of what you would expect. Lovely kind of bready, smooth, yeasty leaning IPA, this one, but of course you've got that sharper fruity note sitting at the front of your palate too. But again, a really great and quite experimental beer from Yardley's. That's the thing that's really cool about these guys, is they're not really that prolific in a sense. They're more going along the ways of researching different flavours rather than doing like good takes on standard beer styles and stuff like that. That is something that you have to say about Yardley's. They will do those as well, but yeah, they're more interested in experimenting with flavour and the science behind the flavour. So that's what I really like about this brewery. But yeah, let's just break this beer down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. Yeah. So, let's start out with this then. Middle third of your palate. The backbone of this beer, of course, is that fresh, white bready, hedgehoggy bread crust in there. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you do get that wee bit of, yeah, as I say, you get that little bit of kind of woody, crackery, well, more of a woody character there. And then above the bread crust, it is more like a kind of Jacob's cream crackery note that you're getting out of this one. So yeah, that's really, really nice. So yeah, on top of that, you start to get the bready character out of the beer. So you can feel there's a nice little bit of a kind of wholemeal brown bready layer coming out of this one. So yeah, the wholemeal brown bready layer, I have to admit, I do really like. So that's, it has a little bit of sweetness to it, but at the same time there's just that little touch of graininess. Then above that you're getting the barley malt white bready layer coming out of the beer. And again, that's just got that little bit of sweetness to it. But then above all of that, you have the, above all of that, you've got a more kind of wheaty and you can feel that wheaty character coming out of the beer. And the wheat in this one has a little touch of bite to it. Like as I've often said, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So toward the back of your palate, you can feel a more bitey, wheaty character, and then it just smoothens out the further forward that you go on these, yeah, it smoothens out the further forward that you go on these, on the palate, I should say. So yeah, smoother wheat further forward. But then I think with this one, I'm trying to figure out whether there's a bit of oat in here, because I wasn't sure about that from the aroma. And I'm not, there could be a little bit in it, but I'm not overly convinced from the flavour. Maybe if you go down the middle line of your palate, there might just be that little bit of oaty character there, and you can feel maybe a little bit of it spreading out toward the edges of the palate. As I say, I'm not 100% convinced. I'm pretty sure there's wheat in this one, but not 100% convinced about oat. But in the dead centre of that middle third of your palate, you get that little touch of like Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch to this one, and then a wee bit of biscuit, and that is of course the alcohol coming out of the beer. But the way the malty character in this beer goes together, I think, is very nice in this one. It's quite light and it's quite a light and drinkable IPA, this one, I would say. It has a little bit of that kind of clean, oily mouthfeel that I quite like from the likes of the Llama Island IPA and the Hong Kong Bastard as well. But I think we've said everything we need to about the middle third of the palate in this one. Let's go to the back third of the palate. As I've often said, the back third of your palate will give you similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, but just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. So you can feel the brown bread in the base and the white bread on top, and then a little bit of the wheat kind of sitting on top of that. But then yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of, you can feel a little bit of that kind of wholemeal brown bready character sitting in there again. You get that kind of, it's more like a wholemeal brown bready bread crust in there. Then you've got the cracker, you can feel the brown bready layer, which is a little bit lighter, taller and more airy. Then above that you've got the white bready layer, which again is a little bit lighter, taller and more airy, and you can feel the wheaty character just kind of creeping over the top of that. So yeah, the way that it all goes together, the way that all goes together in this one, I think is really, really nice. So yeah, on top of that, you're starting to get the yeasty side of this beer, and because it's fake yeast, it actually gives you a lot of these nice kind of dry flavours into the aftertaste, which I do really like. So the yeasty side of this beer, at the centre, you can feel this like slightly sweet, buttery white bread that's quite dense, and then around the edge of that, it is a little bit more like a kind of grainy white bread almost. So it is a little bit more of a kind of grainy, white bready character coming out of this one around the edge of that there. And then yeah, the very edge of that yeasty character is a little bit more like a kind of sweet white bread crusty character. So yeah, the way that all of that kind of pieces together, I think, is very, very nice in this one. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer, especially with it being a Kwai IPA, is good. And I know that Luke loves these Kwai yeasts as well. But definitely back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, that's really nice as well. Let's move on to the hoppy side of things with this beer. And the hoppy side of the beer is actually kind of quite smooth in a sense. I think it's the noble character from the Hallertau Blanc that's giving you that. So in the back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthy character there. And as you move further forward, it gives you a little touch of herbal note. And then as you push further and further forward from that, you start to get more kind of floral aromaticity out of the beer, and it's quite a wet floral aromaticity in all honesty. And then round the front curve of the tongue, the beer is definitely a little bit lighter and more grassy, I would say, that's for sure. Yeah, so on the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of things, let's round off the tasting with a little look at that. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you get that little bit of bready build up in there. You've got the kind of brown bread in the base and the white bread on top and a wee bit of the wheat there. But yeah, the base of that front third of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit more of yeah, the base of that front third of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit more of kind of smooth bread crust in there. Then you've got the cracker, the brown bread, the white bread, and the wheat on top of that. So yeah, the smooth wheaty character that's in there is really, really nice. On top of that though, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll out of the beer from the hops. So let's have a wee look at that, and then we'll see if we can figure out what the terpenes are actually doing. So the terpenes in this beer, I think the terpenes are kind of sitting underneath that oily bubble almost, because yeah, you're getting really sharp juicy mango out of this one, and the pineapple as well is actually quite sharp. So I think the terpenes are giving you like really intense flavours. But what I'm finding is that into the aftertaste, the fruity esters from the hops themselves are coming out a wee bit more. And certainly at the back of that sort of oily bubble that I always talk about, I can get that kind of sharper guava note and maybe a little bit of grapefruit as well. So I think the grapefruit's going to be from the Citra, but the guava is going to be from the HBC 586. Then as you move further forward from that, yeah, you get a wee bit more mango and apricot and pineapple and stuff like that from Citra most likely. Then as you go into the front half of that front third of your palate, you can feel a little bit of that like gooseberry, white green grapey character. That's the Hallertau Blanc. And then above that, almost on the tip of the palate, you're getting that slightly limey, tangerine orangey note which you expect of Mosaic. So everything's coming out of this one. But like I say, this beer, it just has that little, the terpenes I think are giving you that little bit more kind of pungency to your fruity character in this one. So it's really, really interesting, this one. Quite an interesting creation from Yardley's, and they will always put out things like this, which is great. So yeah, this has been a really interesting one to try. I definitely have to say that. I have to give them a thumbs up for that in this regard. But yeah, the way that all of that just pieces together, it gives you a really nice flavour. This one, very summery beer, this one. So I think it's a nice one for them to produce maybe as a summer seasonal or something like that. I think that's a good market for this particular beer. But another solid creation from Yardley Brothers, and I'm not surprised because I know how good these guys can be. But yeah, let's leave it at that for the flavour and round off this review with a wee look at the mouthfeel then. So yeah, for me, mouthfeel wise, this beer is kind of right in the middle of the spectrum. It's got a lovely kind of oily and slightly slick mouthfeel to it, a little bit of a sharper citricy note to it almost as well. Especially when you first take it in, your palate adjusts to this one a wee bit over time. But yeah, really nice, clean, slightly oily IPA, I would say. And yeah, the fruity side of this beer really stands out, of course. IBU wise, I think this one's like, you know, sort of 25-ish IBU, something like that. The malt, like we said, it has a little bit of graininess underneath, a bit of smoothness in the middle, and there's a wee bit of kind of slightly sweeter character on top. which I think is great. And then yeah, you've got the fruity, juicy side of this one. A little bit of dryness from the yeast actually coming out of this beer too. But all in all, really interesting one, and I'm glad that I got the chance to try this one, because I'd heard very good things about it. You know, I keep an eye on Yardley's and see what they're doing. But yeah, I did really enjoy this one. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this review. So yeah, this one was the Pineapple Paul, a 6% IPA from the wonderful Yardley Brothers Brewery in Kwai, Chung in Kowloon here in Hong Kong. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Yardley Brothers Brewery as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future, because I've got quite a few cans and bottles and stuff to look at from these guys. But until then, slàinte it, Scott, cheers, check out my social media, check out Yardley's social media, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Ciao.